Today I'd like to take you through part of the experience around Lake Balaton and examine what differences these towns have from their US counterparts. I want to start off our journey in the village of Genestiash, where I was able to stay at the Hotel Katalin, an all-inclusive sanatorium on the drive into town. I noticed that most streets were only 2 lanes wide, with ample sidewalk space. The curbs are low to the ground. Which is both a good and bad thing. I often saw that curbside parking was taken a lot more literally than in the United States. On my second day in Genestiash, I decided to take a morning walk around the town. I made the mistake of walking on the wrong side of the road at an intersection of Main Street and the Hotel Road. A commenter pointed out that most European streets only have sidewalks on one side of the road. This was duly noted after the fact. But as we can see, there's still plenty of room for me to walk carefully. It isn't the best kept pathway, but I can still walk. I continued along this path stubbornly for more than 10 minutes before turning onto a side street to make my way back to the hotel. At which point, I discovered a certainly unique approach to road signage that they take here. Not only is it hidden in bushes, the text is huge, and it is not above the head of the driver on a small pole, but rather stuck into the ground, black lettering on a white background. The signs also seem to be placed around shoulder height or lower, so drivers are not looking up into the sky. Another interesting component of this town is that while buildings seem to be zoned in a somewhat exclusive manner, mixing of use cases is not an abnormal sight. That's something you really can't find in most US towns or cities of a similar character. As was apparently tradition on this trip, I took a photo of basically every slice of cake I had. The same road that hosts my all-inclusive hotel also holds a cafe called Moni Shutemin. This time it was a mango cheesecake, and let me tell you, it felt great after a 40-minute walk. Since I do want to inject some urban planning into my travels, I'd like to point out a couple things about the roadways. There aren't nearly as many stop signs as there are roundabouts. Additionally, instead of large humps in the road, you more often will see these smaller traffic calming devices that serve a similar function. Whether they are actually better or worse from a traffic perspective is something an engineer could probably tell you. But next, we will visit the nearby city of Keste, which houses the Festatich estate. Today, the grounds are primarily used for weddings. It is an impressive sight. Sadly, my phone died right after walking through the entrance. A large section of the street leading up to the estate is fully pedestrianized, whereas a few years ago it was open to cars and no businesses were present. There are plans to expand the pedestrian area to cover more parts of downtown Keste. For now, this pilot area seems to be showing that it can work. Despite being a tourist town, the northern side of Balaton is often thought to be more quote-unquote residential. They still attract tourists, no doubt, but not nearly as many as in the south, which hosts Balaton Sound and other festivals over the course of the summer holiday. Keste does have a kind of boardwalk. It's made of stone and much wider, with a long pier at the end. This is where you can see glimpses of boats going by, various yachts, soak in some sun, and find the first hotel ever built on Lake Balaton. On a bright day where I was, it really can be nice to just take some time and enjoy the view, enjoy the calm air. Compare this experience to the United States, where many cities, such as Seattle, have turned waterfronts into highways. The towns that have retained walkable features, like the boardwalk or a beach, often commercialize them to death. Mystic Seaport, or again, Jersey Shore, are prime examples. That's not to say that the line of ice cream shops weren't equally commercial, but it's at a different level. The ice cream, as good as it is, as inescapable as it was, is still secondary to the fact that you're in a nice walkable park. As we left Castell, one of my family members mentioned that a castle was restored in the last few decades. We managed to hike up to see this restored piece of history, and it was quite a sight. Now look, I like castles. I enjoy myself a little Crusader Kings 3, but I'm not a history buff, okay? There are many, many fortresses around this lake, but this one just felt particularly nice because it wasn't something slapped together. It really did feel like they had taken the time to learn how to recreate the masonry in a safe and modern way. Yeah, the stone might be uneven some places, but the surfaces itself felt level. I never once felt like I was going to fall off or trip into something because of a loose stone or a loose brick. Having filled our need for historical sightseeing, we headed north to the town of Tihany, which I am told must be pronounced with an A, because pronouncing it any other way may lead to confusion. Hungarian is indeed a very difficult language. In this town, one of the things I noticed in between dodging tour groups was that the roads were similarly very narrow, and that the parking lot was far away from commercial buildings. As a general observation throughout the country, I noticed that cars stopped at crosswalks for pedestrians all of the time. Once again, we found a place to get cake and coffee. This time, I had a hazelnut cake. I was, at this point, very much sick of cake, and yet I persisted. After the cake, we managed to find ourselves a gem stall. One thing to note for tourists is that German is much more widely spoken around here than English. It's maybe a 3-to-1 ratio. The gems on display were really nice, and as far as I could tell, not too overpriced. If you're in the area, I'd definitely try and check this place out. I'm not sponsored, I just asked a guy if I could film. If you're a fan of military history, on the drive back from Tihany, I managed to find an open-air tank museum. At least, that's what I think this is. I don't know why else there would be an artillery piece out in the sun. Let me know if you're from the area. There has become a trend, especially in the last several years, of Hungarians moving out to Balaton due to its calmer lifestyle compared to the capital. So this place definitely has value beyond tourist season. And I hope you enjoyed today's look at Lake Balaton. I would be very interested to see how it compares to similar regions in your own country. Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked this video, I'd appreciate you giving it a like and sharing it around. It really helps the channel. I'll be seeing you in the next one.